Star Wars Outlaws faced a lot of backlash leading up to release because of the ugly character models and buggy and glitchy gameplay, but now we're finding out that virtually nobody bought it because Star Wars Outlaws has reportedly sold just 1 million copies in the month since its launch. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, recently, we actually heard the Ubisoft CEO blame us for this game underperforming, saying that we are the problem, that gamers expect too much from developers, which is complete and utter lunacy. Of course, we have higher expectations because you expect us to spend $70 on a video game, and this year, you also have released several fails like Skull and Bones, X Defiant. We know that Assassin's Creed Shadows release had to be pushed off, but now we're finding out that Star Wars Outlaws sold so terribly that apparently it sold just 1 million copies. This is a Insider Gaming article. It says Star Wars Outlaws was plagued with issues at launch, some of which led Ubisoft to drastic tweaks. It wasn't well received by the general market, and gamers worldwide have been giving it pretty low scores. It comes as no surprise to learn that in an entire month on the shelves, Star Wars Outlaws has sold just 1 million copies. Now, leading up to release, it was facing a lot of criticism because of the uglier character models. Kay-Vess's face seemed to change all the time, and even when you're playing the game, her face looks different in different shots. It's so bizarre. Then, of course, you have the fact that you have this game where you're playing as this scoundrel, right? And that sounds really cool, but 90% of the gameplay is stealth, and I don't mind stealth gameplay, but you just expect a little bit more from a game like this. You just expect a lot of grenades and explosions and blaster fights. It just felt kind of underwhelming. And you also had very, very broken gameplay, buggy, glitchy characters, and mobs would see you through walls. Sometimes your feet would fall through the ground and then you were stuck in place. Like, it just is littered with problems, which is so unfortunate because there were a lot of people excited for this because of the recent Star Wars games, Fallen Order and Survivor. While this is not being made by the same team, and you can clearly see that, those games set a very, very high standard, right? That they had to try to even reach, never mind overcome. With Star Wars Outlaws, people had high expectations because those games were so well done, and unfortunately, Star Wars Outlaws just was a nightmare, and now we're finding out that apparently it did not sell well. Now, of course, sometimes games take a while to sell, but when we are talking about Star Wars, we're talking about Ubisoft, and ultimately, we know that Ubisoft put the most amount of money towards the marketing budget for this game that they ever have. This title was a complete and utter wash. I mean, 1 million copies is not a lot in terms of a AAA video game release. We, of course, know that this game cost $70, so that means they made roughly $70 million, but this title had a $150 million budget if we are to believe the rumors, never mind any marketing they had. We are just talking about 150 for development costs, so we're talking about them losing at least $100 million here, so they did not even come close to making a profit on this title. Now, if they had actually listened to gamers, maybe they could have salvaged this if they had, had a major delay. They really tried to tweak Kay-Vess's face so that it at least looked normal in all of the shots. Her jaw looks weird, her hair looks weird, her face looks weird. I don't know what the problem was, but they also could have at least made it a technically sound game. And that's not the way that this turned out. Maybe they knew that they were going to have to delay Assassin's Creed Shadows, and so they told themselves, we have to put out Star Wars Outlaws so that we have some other major release for 2024, given X Defiant was a flop and Skull and Bones was a quadruple A nightmare for them. But we will never really know because they're not transparent, though they are transparent about their hatred for gamers and how they basically think that we are the problem with the industry, not them. You'd think that the CEO and the developers would be blaming themselves, like, oh man, we just weren't able to create a sound product for the people we need to buy our content, and we're so sorry. If they showed an ounce of responsibility and accountability, maybe I'd be sitting here saying, you know what, it is what it is. Maybe one day they'll patch it and they'll fix it on up. But that's not the way that they're acting. We know the developers reportedly revealed the company brushed off legitimate criticism as toxic gamer talk and DEI policies have led to brain drain. But we also know that the CEO, Yves Guillemot, just recently in the earnings call said that this game underperformed, but it's because gamers have high expectations. And I did another video on that. It will be linked down below. But of course, we have higher standards. We see video games release every week, every month, every year. We see tons of products coming out, and we've seen older products be significantly better, whether it's the story or the characters, the open world, the gameplay, like you name it. And Star Wars Outlaws doesn't do it well. It doesn't do it better than any other Star Wars game. I mean, again, Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor were fantastic experiences, and Star Wars Outlaws just dropped the ball. So it is interesting, of course, to hear that apparently this has sold just 1 million copies, and it is a rumor. Take it with a grain of salt. We do not know for certain, but they have already confirmed that it underperformed. It did not do as well as they were expecting. So this does seem like a pretty legitimate number, simply because, yes, Star Wars does have a lot of brand recognition, and they did put the most amount of money they ever have towards marketing this game. But there was a lot of backlash surrounding this leading up to release. And I do think that at the end of the day, you guys made a difference. That yes, this game probably would have sold significantly more copies, but because we've hammered away at Ubisoft, we've called out their bullshit, there are tons of gamers who decided they were not going to buy it at launch, and maybe they'll buy it when it's in a bargain bin, which is fantastic to see our, discussions about games actually making a difference. I want games to be great. I wish at Ubisoft and Massive Entertainments were creating amazing products, and I didn't have to sit here and criticize so many video games, but when they release trash, I'm gonna criticize them, and you're not gonna buy it. So it's hilarious to see, and I will, be keeping my eye on this if they decide to make a statement. I highly doubt it because we had just gotten the earnings report, but so far things are not going well for Star Wars Outlaws, and just a month after release, it's only reportedly sold 1 million copies. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.